Hello.
Are you in the kitchen?
No, I'm in the living room. I'm not in there.
That
Hi.
if no one knew you, they would say that's a sexist question.
True. What would I be doing in the kitchen?
Getting us-
You
getting
know?
yourself some wine. Getting yourself some wine.
Um, yeah, I'm gonna get myself a beer.
Okay.
Mm,
So yeah, I think the title of this is very good in the sense that it's very open because I think what I've struggled with a lot is to understand what women actually fear and why they fear it because because as a guy,
mm,
it's like whatever a guy fears, you always try to overcome it. And chances are that you can always be robust in trying to attack whatever you feel. And we have obviously different what do you call it? Just different traits that we use to encounter it, which makes it
mm,
difficult for me to understand, for example, why a woman would fear a man. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
that's actually the first and big question is like as a woman walking out at night, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you fear? Like, do you fear being like kidnapped? Do you fear being um killed or stabbed or robbed or raped? What is it? And then I guess I'll follow through the questions after that because I want to get to a particular thing, but I just wanted to start from there.
Okay, I guess it's different for different women, but
Uh-huh.
I'd say personally, like it's not like I'm thinking, okay, I need to walk somewhere at night and the first thing's like, oh, I'm gonna get kidnapped. Like, um, but for me, it's like, okay, I need to be cautious. It's nighttime. I don't want to like call for trouble. Where I'm walking around and not expecting to get raped, robbed, or like just to put myself in a position where I could be a victim. Like, it's not um it doesn't even really matter like too much like what neighborhood I'm in and whatnot. But then it's just like at certain times of the night, I'm not just gonna walk the streets just alone. And it's better like walking with other people, just not alone. Like I'm not gonna like go looking for trouble like that.
Is
So
it
for me, it's more like, okay, I might get raped, stabbed, or whatever. It doesn't matter where you are, though, for me.
okay? Does it matter if the people that you're walking with are female or male, and why?
I'd prefer it to be male, but
Uh-huh.
if it's like women, like I feel safer. But it's like I'd much rather it be guys than it's like just another woman or two other women, because like I mean, like, if a guy was gonna like do something stupid or like rape you too, like whatever, like you are both women. But then if it's a guy, they might think twice and be like, hey, like maybe I shouldn't.
So you feel
But
you feel you would feel safer if you're walking with females or with guys.
with guys,
Okay, you feel safer walking
definitely,
with guys because you
yes.
feel as though guys would be less likely to attack you.
Yes, and also it's just like nobody's like looking at guys at night and like, oh, I want to go rape that guy. Like, not that it would never happen,
Ah,
but it's not like, if you are with guys, then like, okay, you know, just walking with Amajita. But then if it's like a bunch of women or just you as a woman, like there's that possibility of like we can attack these girls or just her and I just don't want to put myself in that place.
okay. So, and it's okay. So in that scenario there, for instance, I can agree as well that we are fearful of men being the attackers, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
mean, more often than not, it's not going to be a woman that's going to be attacking,
Yes.
right? Okay, so we
Mm-hmm.
can agree on that. But in the same token, we can also agree that in any situation like that, it's mostly men that are also going to be the protectors.
Yes.
Okay,
That's why
right.
I'm more comfortable with, that's why in that case, I'm more comfortable with having guys with me if I need to walk somewhere, or if I'm walking home from somewhere or wherever, I'd much rather have a guy or guys walk me home.
Okay. Okay, so now let's just switch up the scenario a bit. Let's say you were at a party, right? Or a house party,
Yeah.
right? Would you
Mm.
be more comfortable having more guys or more girls?
At a house party.
Yeah.
If it's my party, then whoever will be there, like I will know them somehow, even if it's like not my friends, but then friends of friends, like there's a connection there of like who this person is. I wouldn't have like random strangers at my party. So then
Okay.
it's different. If then maybe I'm at somebody else's party, then I don't think I'd care very much because it's not like it's an isolated space.
Yeah.
It's like you're just there with a bunch of people and it's out in the open.
And you would then assume that everyone kind of has a link to everyone. So
If
it'll be you
even if
just
even if they're not like I wouldn't care as much as if I was in the street somewhere. So if I'm there, obviously I would be there with like people I know, or I wouldn't be alone at a house party like somewhere like that.
okay. Now let's say you're going to a party. Now it's like an outside party, so at a club somewhere, right? Would you be
Mm.
more comfortable being at a club that has a lot of more males or more females?
I'd want it to be a mix, but whatever it is, it wouldn't bother me very much.
Okay. As long as it's a controlled environment.
Hmm.
Okay. So if the environment is controlled, doesn't matter the ratio really. But if the environment is uncontrolled, as in like a walk down the road or walk down the park, then you'd rather be with males because chances are more, like I said again, more males are more likely to attack you, and therefore more males are likely to defend you in the same breath.
Yes and no. So like you said, if I'm walking in the streets, it's isolated and whatnot. I want like males that I trust to a level
Yeah.
to be with me, to protect
Mm-hmm.
me, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then also in like at a party somewhere, and I'm with a whole lot of like males and females. I don't really care. Like I'm not interacting with them or anything. And also, I'm not in a space where somebody could try and take advantage of the situation because it's just the two of you, or like, it's um, everybody's doing what they're doing. Like, nobody would force themselves on me. Um, and then, like, nobody noticed. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, that's what I'm saying is that if it's a controlled environment, then it doesn't matter what the ratios are. It doesn't matter for
no.
your safety what the ratios are because the environment is controlled. As soon as the environment gets less controlled, then the less security you have. And then if the less security you have because of the environment, then you want that security to be in the form of a male, because chances are that another male could then disrupt your security because of the environment. The environment is not secure.
Yes, and the male that I'm with, I must know and
Yeah,
have
yeah.
some level of trust with them.
Yeah. Okay. So we got that. So the environment needs to be controlled for you to feel safe. And if not, then you need to have a male there to make you feel safe. Obviously that you trust, because you don't trust the other male. So we kind of males are both the protectors and the abusers or victimizers. Yeah, the victimizers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now it's like, okay, so we know that obviously a lot of the men commit rapes and abuse. Well, actually, a lot of men commit rapes, right? And as a female, do you think that you're more sensitive to situations whereby there are males around in the thought process of rape? So do you always feel as though, ooh, if I'm in a situation like this, something like that could happen? Do you always feel as though you're edgy about stuff like that?
I don't feel like I feel like that all the time. Like, it's, for me, it's all about environment. Even if there is no guy or like somebody that could be a perpetrator anyway, like my environment and my surround, I'm very aware of that. I'm like, I wouldn't like just go to a place or walk to a place where I could be in trouble, like, and I knew that, and then I went anyway, you know. So yeah, it's not about like now I'm like profiling all the men, and it's more about like I need to be cautious not to give someone an opportunity to be stupid or place myself where I would be like out of control and with no help.
Okay. All right. The reason why I asked that is because when I asked you now, like, what the fears were that you have, if you're walking out in the public, you mentioned rape. And if you would have asked me as a guy, I probably would never mention rape. I probably just mention, well, getting killed or getting robbed. So that's another thing that I think, again, as a guy, it's like, because I'm just never gonna. And you said it yourself that a guy is just never gonna probably be in a situation where a guy's gonna want to rape another guy, which raises another question of, well, then, like, rapists, do they generally care about gender that they're raping, or is it got more to do with the gender is then intertwined with the power nature of a rape? So, for instance, like, can you hear me?
Yeah.
For instance, like, if a group of guys were walking down the road and the rapist was there, do you think that they would then say, oh shit, okay, I'm actually going to rape these guys if they were a rapist? Probably
No,
not.
like, no. Even rapists like have like they're wise. Like they know, like I'm not gonna just approach a group of guys or a few guys or a guy that might be able to overpower me or beat me up. Like, you know, so they will be like, I'm gonna look for someone that is a bit more vulnerable, or I think that they are weaker, or I can overpower them in strength or whatever. They're not gonna go for someone that is strong, particularly a guy, because that is like, okay, it's another guy. Now I'm like, he's probably gonna fight back, and you know. But with women, it's this almost that assumption that, oh, I can overpower them or that, and in most cases they can. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then there's this underlying thought process that even with a rapist, the main thing for that person, I'm going to say him because most males are rapists, is that they can actually they can complete whatever they want to complete with the least possible consequences on their part. And generally in the general society, you go for the less physically able people, right? Or the least strongest people to go for. And generally in society, that's going to be females. And therefore, that's part of the reason why females are going to be more raped than males, besides the fact that sometimes rapists, or most times rapists, are heterosexuals. So it's not like they're going to, rock up and rape men. But then it would be interesting to find out if those same rapists go to jail and then figure out, oh, you know what? Now I'm going to go for the weaker men because it's only men that are here. And it's a power struggle type of thing.
That's very likely to happen, though.
Yeah.
So, like, I would assume that in jail it's a whole different ball game, because now it's more about power than anything.
Yeah, because it would be interesting to find out, because it's like, well, when you're in jail, you've taken away the juvenile factor, right? Because let's say if it's an old man that's raping, you've taken away the juvenile factor. Well, these are the weaker people in society, the kids. So you take that out because obviously they're jailed with other men. Then you take out the factor of, well, in jail you get separated. So now there's no females, right? So now it's like, but now you're still a rapist. So what do you do then, right? Well, then you're not going to rape another murderer. Yeah, so you're not going to rape another murderer or another rapist, because chances are they're going to be, the more dominant and physically dominant species. So then you go for the weaker guys, right? So then it begs the question of, is then your rape, your raping nature, let's put it that way for lack of a better word or term, that it's more to do with a power struggle than it has to do with a particular gender.
In jail.
Okay. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, because you take away the gender factor and you've taken away the children factor. So now it's like, now you're in jail. It's like, do you then stop all of a sudden being a rapist?
I mean, it depends how ambitious you are in your rapist vibes. But then, those two cases would look very different, because in jail, then you would look for a weaker guy, or a guy that you can overpower in all sorts of ways. But then out here, there's much more people that you can victimize, from, like you mentioned, kids, women, and maybe even in some other cases, even if it's not out there, whatever, some men, have been raped from clubs and whatnot. Like, once you put in alcohol in there and somebody's like unaware where they're going, whatever, and then like, oh, hey, like, I'll get you an Uber, or I can walk you, whatever, and they can still get raped. Because even then, they're not gonna fight you back if they're drunk, and so it's bottom line about like who you can overpower, and obviously take rape them. But then obviously, like, that is more like women and kids, and
Yeah. So it goes back to a power thing, where it's like, you want to be able to complete what you want to complete, whether it's a rape or an assault, with the least possible damage to you. So if someone's intoxicated or drugged, then regardless of a gender, if you want to do whatever you do, you'll go for that person, as opposed to someone else that'll be able to then overpower you and then inflict damage.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So now, so now we have a situation whereby you have men that are overwhelmingly raping women, right? Again, like I said, small minority of men, but they do all the rapes, right? And then you have women that are overwhelmingly, and kids overwhelmingly being raped, right? So now society says, okay, well, these are the victims, the women are the victims, and women and kids are the victims, and the males are the victimizers, right? So when we set up law, right, we need to now classify rape as a case whereby it's really taken seriously, right? Fair enough, because there's a lot that's on the line on either side, right? Male, females and males. So whether they're the rapists and not the rapists, there's a lot to be taken into account.
Yeah.
Right? Then you're getting this narrative now that says, okay, well, if a woman says, because there's a lot of women that are being raped, if a woman says that they are raped, believe them.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I think, yes, believe them. Like when somebody comes to you and say, I got raped, like, I mean, believe them, because it may be true that they've been raped, and for somebody that's been violated like that to come up and say, this is what happened to me, because that kind of strips everything like of you as a person. So like take that person seriously and hear what they have to say and try and get the story out of them as much as they can speak to figure out what happened. Then obviously the flip side of that is that because people know that people are likely to believe you, they can take advantage of that fact and lie and get things out of people based off of that, like, you know. But believe somebody when they say they got raped, and figure out if their story is actually coming together. Like, because if somebody is lying and whatnot, at some stage, like, you can connect the dots, but at first hand, I'd say, like, believe anybody that would come up to you and say, I got raped.
Okay. All right. So just like anything. So if you got robbed, you go to the police station, you say, hey, I got robbed. They kind of have to believe you. What other alternative do they have, right? If you go to the station, you say, I got someone put a gun to my head, you know? They kind of have, even though at that moment they don't have the evidence besides whatever you think, right? Or whatever you're saying, they don't have any other evidence besides your claim, right? They have to kind of take whatever you say and believe it, right? Yeah. Okay. So now, rape has been classified in a lot of places, well, especially in SA, but as a very serious offense, like I said, right? It's Schedule 5 case. Same with most crimes that have to do with guns, for example, right? And killings and all that stuff. But most crimes that have to do with guns, they put rape in there. Because, again, which is also debatable, about the stats that there's a lot of females that get raped by men that they don't, nothing gets done about it, or it's hard to prove, and there's men out there freely, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then the thought process is, okay, well, we need to get those men, right? Like, we need to get them. So now what happens is, okay, if someone comes to you and has a story and says to you, listen, this person raped me. If it's a Schedule 5 case, right? You have to go and fetch that person, whatever the accused is, right? And when you fetch them, you take them straight to jail, right? Yeah. And within those days that they are in jail, you go through an extensive process of taking fingerprints, checking their background, all sorts of stuff. You can then also get their statement, right? So you rock up, you go and you open a case. Hey, so-and-so raped me. Oh shit, this is a very serious case. Kind of like, again, like I said, if it's a gun case, they go and they fetch that person, right? It's already decided that this person's not going anywhere else besides jail, right?
Yeah.
So you go fetch this person, you take him to jail, okay? After you take him to jail, you then can say, okay, well, look, I'm going to charge you. You're going to stay 48 hours in jail, right? And you have to be charged and you have to appear in court, right?
Yeah.
So they take you, you go and you do your fingerprints, you put your statement down. If not, it's fine. You can always then have a lawyer in court that will then speak for you, speak on behalf of you. Or you can request one, which normally obviously takes days and days, right? And so now you're in jail. You say you choose to write your statement. You write your statement. The person that takes the statement says, okay, well, this person has a statement, that person has a statement. Cool, they'll decide it in court. But this person goes to jail. Right? So now you have a situation where one person accused another person of something, right? But because it's this magnitude now, and because of the statistics that people have gone through, and like I said again, very debatable, right? That they then treat every case as if it was as if it's not individual. Now it's like, nah, it's too serious. No, go to jail. Now in those 48 hours, you're chilling in jail, regardless of whether you're guilty or not. Right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've been to jail, but if you've seen guys that have, like I said again, most people that do go to jail are going to be men, because again, like I said, most victims are female and most males are victimizers when it comes to the act. Not speaking about anything else, right? Because at the end of the day, this victim is a victim in the sense that he gets put in jail and you don't, right? So different factors. You're the victim. Different factors. I'm the victimizer, and I'm the victim in this sense, and you're the victimizer. It's different, right? But we don't know the facts yet, right? And we don't know the truth yet. And the only way that we can know that, well, it's also debatable because the courts don't really care about the truths. It's about what you can prove. Is that then? So then this person goes to jail. He rocks up in court 2 days later, right? Or 2 days later, 48 hours, right? Now he has to then produce evidence as to why he should receive bail, right?
The person accused of rape.
Yeah. Okay. I stand corrected, but this is how I understand it to be, right? And if you have a prior criminal record, regardless of what it is, right, that obviously weighs against you, right?
Yeah.
As do other things, such as if you're what do you call this? If you can, what do you call this thing? If you can leave the country, those things. Sorry, so they can have special cases where they take your passport and things like that, right? But the prosecution, if they read these cases and they say, okay, it looks like we don't want this guy to receive bail. Let's say we choose that part. Then he appears and we say, okay, no, and assume that this person, most of the people don't actually have the money to even pay their personal lawyers. So they don't have lawyers if you're accused in this, right? Oh, don't have, not quite sure of this case. We'd like to keep this and investigate further, right? And investigating further generally means we're going to detain you even more, right? And then what happens? You go to maximum. Right?
Yeah.
So you go to maximum prison. So whether you're innocent or not, they're just trying to find out some stuff. Right? You go to maximum, and that's a minimum of 7 days. And generally 7 days means like 7 months because of postponements and all those things, right? So you've been taken from wherever you are, right? And you put in a legit, like, one day you wake up and that's it, you're gone, right? And everything else in your life is just shifted and changed because of whatever you're accused of, right? Now, my question from that is, are you then really innocent till proven guilty?
Yes. But then obviously, like, obviously the situation of rape and how the law in this country still has it could be improved in that way, because like you just explained, then while they're still trying to figure out whether you actually raped this person or not, like you are already like in a very horrid like situation where you are treated at the same level as murderers and you know all of that. um but then also the flip side of that is that the very same, I think the reason why, even though I'm not 100% sure that that is the case, um, like they take it so seriously is because it's such a serious crime. Like I put it like exactly right there with like murder and all of those kind of things because for one, the like somebody that's a rapist, for instance, I'm not talking about people that are wrongfully accused or like, which happens all the time. And I wish like the justice system worked better, like in cases like that, as that goes. But then somebody that's a rapist, like probably like just rapes so many people, not knowing where, like where they're at and everybody, and there they can rape you as well. So they've taken like so much out of you, and like you are just there, like, okay, like I could be dying right now and I don't know. And this person made that decision for you without your consent or anything. So that is like literally murder level for me. So coming from somebody that is raped for real and they're not lying about it, so the justice system is working that way. But then if they've been wrongfully accused, then it's like the worst from the other side because they are in a situation of a rapist that deserves like to be with murderers and actually get the worst punishment ever. But then like unfortunately you are not that, and then you find yourself there. So like there's no balance there, but I'm for it, and then again I'm like it could improve.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. Like that's why it was a question more than it was a statement, because in the same breath, I also understand the reason as to why, because again, like I said, they could say this statistically, but again, it's very shaky. But that there's more people that are convicted than there aren't, right? And most of the time, people that are wrongfully committed, or they're wrongfully arrested, do actually get out, and people that are actually rapists are actually then convicted, right? So I do understand it in that sense, is that shit, if things do happen, you really don't want that person out, right? Just much like if this person was a murderer, right? You really don't want them out, right? So you want them to keep prolonging the stuff so the person can be there. But even though you can still abuse the system in that sense and keep saying, well, I'm looking for evidence, I'm looking for evidence, I'm looking for evidence, and this person is just rotting out in jail, just collecting more and more cases, right? Being in jail and losing so much more. And even if he does come out, it's like, whether he's, especially when he's, even if he's innocent or not, it's like, well, man, you spent like, 7 months in jail. You're going to be guilty of something now, regardless of whether you went in there or not, not guilty.
Yeah.
Right. So that's something to think about. Again, like I say, I totally understand the fact that it needs to be that way, because you'd rather have people in that are that are dangerous than have them out. Right. And you really can't, like, you can try to police the system with people trying to abuse it and say, well, look, I convicted him today, and then tomorrow I said, oh, nah, I was joking, or nah, it didn't happen that way, right? So it's like, well, then what do you do with those people? Do you then counter convict them? You know, what happens then? Do you then lay charges on them? Which then also might not be the best thing to do, because then when you retaliate like that, perhaps then what you then have is, even if someone goes and opens a case today and then says, oh, you know what, I don't feel that I actually, like, this actually happened, but now I know that if I go and I recant my statement, I'm going to end up in jail. Now I need to go and continue with it.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So that could also bring up a lot of issues, which is why I see again as to how it can be very tricky, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now my issue is on this part of actually defining what rape and consent is.
Mm-hmm.
So the start of this whole thing is that we're having problems there in between. And I think the reason why we're having problems there in between is because we haven't even been able to start defining these terms, which is why I always go back to the use of language and its definitions. It's because it's crucial. It's crucial to know what consent actually is, or what rape actually is. And it seems as though that we're better off just leaving those questions unanswered. And if then we feel as though someone has done something untoward, then we just go and bash them, and then we tear them apart, even though we don't even know what the legalities are, and the definitions of the terms. You know, it's different to murder, where it's like murder is taking someone's life, right?
It's gone.
So if someone's life is taken, and it's not that person, then someone must have done it. If there is, you can prove that. But now the thing is with rape, it's like, how do you do that? How do you even begin to define consent? Because then it just gets really, really tricky, right? Because you can say today I consented, tomorrow you didn't. What happens
But
then?
you can't change and flip flop like that. So if
Of
you
course you
said,
can.
let's say, eh?
So you can like what happens a lot in Joburg, for example, where or not even in Joburg, everywhere else in the world, but you can go and sleep with someone tonight, wake up tomorrow, and tell them that you're gonna go and accuse them of rape. So yesterday it was fine, today it's not.
Mm.
So
In cases like that, I would also I would assume that you referring to more like one night stand type of situations where you don't
it
really
could
know this. Yeah.
it could be
So like,
sometimes it could be husband and wife, sometimes it could be boyfriend and girlfriend. It's the fact that you can let something happen today, tomorrow wake up and say that something different happened, which then makes consent iffy. Because then it's like, well, what really is consent? You know, perhaps you with someone, right? And you say especially with like sexual intercourse, it's not something that's like, it's like the one side says, look, consent is, let's write something down and sign it. Exactly that. Like it's laughable, because who does that? And how do you even like? How does that even? How do you partake in that? Like, how do you even sit down and say, okay, do you agree on these terms? Like, there's so many things that have to happen for that to happen. That's just ridiculous, you know?
I think I think it would be hard, like, because you mentioned that like with married couples, like rape they can be even worse because okay, with a one night stand, like you can actually like okay have a trail um of an agreement of that happening somehow. Like maybe if you're not like at a club or whatever, like this person said yes, I want this, and then you go on and do that. But then in like a marriage, for instance, which people do get raped today as well, um, it's a bit hard, like harder because this person feels like I can sleep with you whenever I want, like whatever. But then also the other, like the either one, like they may not know that they can actually say no or whatever the case may be. So it's like, okay, like how did I rape you if you are my wife, you are my husband? So it's very like blurred there. And I don't think there's a solution to that at the moment where you can be like, okay, so I said yes, no, like, it's even in just like normal agreed upon relationships, it's like, okay, my thing is like, if she says yes, I say she because in most cases, like it's women that would take things out of control. But then if she says yes, I agree to this, they like say it. Like, if she says yes, we can go off and sleep together, then that's consent. But if she's not clear about it, just for your own safety and protecting yourself, just don't go on things like that that are not clear. Like get to a point where you are clear with this person. She said yes, and then go on and do that, just to cover yourself in that way.
But okay, so that would be the a definition of consent, right? Is to get a confirmation from the other person, right? Okay. So first of all, getting that in a sexual encounter is hardly ever, right? It's mostly it's almost like body language that kind of gives you the confirmation, right? Because it's awkward to ask someone, "Do you want to do this?" You know what I mean? Especially when you're the whole excitement and the whole thrill of it and the whole point of it is to read each other and to make it exciting that way, that you again, body language and non-verbal language, right? Now all of a sudden when you make it something of where it's like it's so open, like sex is such an open game that everyone should have it, but it's so dangerous that you have to ask someone for it. It's very tricky, and you have to get consent. It's like I have to get consent, but then I can do whatever I want, but not really, because I might say to someone that I want to do everything that I want, but she only consented to this and not that, but she never said no when I said this, or you know what I mean? It gets very iffy, right? Mm-hmm. And then you might then say, okay, well then just if she says no or says yes, then that's what you should get, the consent. But then even then it's like she can say yes today and say no tomorrow, and then tomorrow she goes to jail. I mean, she goes to the police station. And then, like I said again, then that whole system. So it seems as though whoever gets there first is the winner type of thing, or is in control.
Lord. I think, okay, but then like situations we are describing now are more like, I don't know, like, I think with rape, I think in cases where people are just like, okay, like I kept on saying no to this person and they just wouldn't hear me. In those cases where like people have been like violated like that, then I'm like, okay, yes, like this person just could not hear no. Whether it's from your wife or whatever, and she kept on saying no and kept on pushing, then that is really rape. But then when somebody is like in with the flow, like you mentioned, never said no, I'm not comfortable with this and everything, and then tomorrow they come out and say something different, then that I would also even like put up my case if I was like the guy or the girl in that situation with the police. I'm like, not at any point this person said, I'm not in at this. But then today is a different story because maybe they pissed at you for whatever reason. But that person didn't rape you. You were in with the whole thing.
But now that's the thing.
No, and then you keep on pushing yourself.
But like I said, it's like as long as you're there and you go there, they will hear your story. but this person needs to go to jail. So regardless of whether his story makes sense at that time or not, and yours doesn't, because you're there first, you need to be listened to. And then he then has to then sort that nonsense out in jail. And if whether, then it could be, oh no, there's not enough evidence. But he's then done the time already. And there's no consequence for the other person. And it goes back to what Mpho said that other day, that lack of evidence is not necessarily an admission, or is not necessarily a guilt, right? But at the same time, it's like, well then, now you have someone that has gone through this whole ordeal, and he's being treated like a guilty person, even though you would say he's innocent.
Yeah. Yeah, with that one, I do agree with you. That's where I'm like, okay, I do like the fact that the justice system is doing something about rape, and at an extreme that it is, because it's that extreme. But then also there is no protection for those that are wrongfully accused, to the point where they will be in jail with a criminal record. Their lives are messed up. Even when they come out, like, it's like, okay, now you have this on you, you have all of that. Like, the stain doesn't go away just because you've been proven not guilty, you know? So something could be improved that way. But also I'm like, yeah, I don't even know how they would do that without.
It's very tricky.
Yeah.
Like I said again.
Yeah.
Because like I said again, the first thought would be to retaliate, but that retaliation could actually end up with you having more people in jail, because then the fear would be, even if I wanted to get money out of this person and go there and tell him that he raped me, now that I know that, for instance, a retaliation is, if we can find out that he didn't rape you, he can charge you, then you'll say, fuck it, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to let him stay there for however long he wants to be. So you might actually end up in a situation where there's less people that actually come out that are innocent than what you would think that there will be more people. So which is why it's very tricky, right? So in another angle, it's like, do you then think that the majority, or those people that go and claim and do things like that abuse the system, take away from the seriousness of the females that are genuinely raped?
Absolutely. That's why I'm like, I have such mixed feelings about it, because I'm like, I've seen the other side where somebody really, really needs to be taken seriously and, like, report cases of rape. And even for the person that's been raped, like, how hard it is for them, and how messed up that, like, messes up their lives and everything. And then you have somebody that would jokingly, like, not even jokingly, but then use that for their own benefit. And then now the police, like, even the police, like, oh, you got raped, okay. Because not all the police will take it as seriously as the law may say, okay, this is how this must be taken. Like, some policemen can be like, make it difficult.
Mostly if it's male police as well.
Yeah, like, some of them will be like, what do you mean? Like, like, be joking about situations where really you shouldn't be joking about this. This person needs help, and you are in a position where you are supposed to help them, and it took a lot out of this person to come to you and relive that, and, put a statement down, be like, this is what happened. So for those people, I'm like, okay, this sucks, but they need to go through it so that this person is jailed or whatever. But then in a situation where, like, people will take advantage all the time. But with those as well, like, it sucks, but it does take out the seriousness out of the whole rape thing. Because, oh, you two got raped, and it's like, a trending thing where for other people it's a real thing and it's a real pain. but people just will look for opportunity, even if like they hated this guy, they might put them in there just to be, you know, to
Yeah.
be, yeah.
So, so this is also one of the issues that that you can see in the Me Too movement, for example, right? It's almost as if the it's like you're creating a safe platform for people to come out and to really voice their opinions about sexual assault that they experienced, right? And you know the difficulties of getting a conviction of a sexual assault because of the fact that there's a lot that needs taken into account, and more often than not, it's just you and the person. Unless this person says, "I did not even touch you," and then they can find DNA through a rape swab test or a rape test kit of this person actually doing or this person's DNA, then it's a more kind of a likely thing to connect. But if this person says, "Yeah, no, we did it," and this person says, "Yeah, we did it, but he raped me," then they're like, well, then it's your story against hers, which is where the piss off comes in with the Me Too movement people, because then they're like, well, she says it, therefore we need to believe her. Why would she lie about it? And then the rest of the people say, well, why would he lie about it, right?
Mm.
And it's kind of a hearsay type of thing. But then again, what the courts are then designed to go through the wall. If you don't have evidence to prove what happened to you, then how can we convict someone, especially beyond reasonable doubt? As long as there is some doubt at all, we have to then let them go, right? So then you have then a lot of women that do get put through sexual assault cases that don't get people convicted because of that. Because again, it's difficult to get evidence because you are also the evidence as the woman. Your own personal self is the evidence. So body. So it's difficult to get a conviction. So then the Me Too movement comes through and says, look, we'll be your voice. Right? And then obviously it sounds nice because it's like, shit, at least someone's listening to me. But then they say, okay, cool. So what we'll say is someone has to have consent to have sex with you. And then you think, okay, that sounds cool. You don't go through the whole thought process of, well, then what is consent? When do you give consent? Then they make it wishy-washy. Then they say, look, you're allowed to be liberated and have all your sexual experiences that you really want to have, but it's so dangerous that you have to have consent. And then you're sitting there thinking, you know what I mean? Then you sit there and you think, well, wait, are you trying to help or are you trying to make the situation worse? Because how am I supposed to have like consent? In what form? You know, like again, you can have sex today and then in 10 years' time think, let me go to the police station. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then you get all these terms now that they're just whipping out of nowhere of coercion. You know, it's like, what is that? What does that even mean?
But it's a real thing, though. Like, even
fair enough.
People do get coerced, like, especially if they're underage and whatever. Like, people can, like, groom people into, like, you thinking this person is just being nice and whatnot, but later you find out that actually they were just grooming you for whatever it is that they wanted out of it. And this is not just for women, even for like little boys, like, you know, you're like, oh, uncle there is just very nice to Thabo, but really, like, uncle just wanted to get Thabo like to just be okay with him, and then he had like bigger plans. And Thabo now, with the power struggle of like, we've created this kind of relationship and whatnot. Over time, you find that he had a goal or whatever, with whatever niceness he had a goal. So coercing like a little boy, like over years or months or whatever, only to get them to a place where they feel safe with you, and you know, like, it wouldn't be like an awkward situation for them to be spending time with you, but then you as a I don't even want to say a pedophile, but you as an old man that wants to use this little boy can do that, and it's a real thing. This is why
Yeah. So how do you coerce an adult?
an adult. Okay, I don't know how you would do that, but then I know with children, because then you create that environment where they feel safe with you, like over however long that it may take them. But then with adults, it's a bit different. Like I don't know how that would look in real life.
Yeah. So look, I mean, look again. If you have a term coercion, the term coercion doesn't really care about your age or your sex. Coercion is just a term that means that you coerce someone into having sex. So if it's done to little boys or girls or it's done to adults, it's the same term, right? So then you would then automatically assume that whatever definition you have to it when it pertains to kids, it'll be the same definition as you have to it pertaining to adults, right? So therefore, if you can coerce kids, you can coerce anyone. You can
Like
coerce humans. One person coercing another.
what then is the difference between pursuing someone as an adult and then coercing someone? So like that difference for me comes with a kid is underage, and like you shouldn't be thinking I want this kind of relationship with a child. That's the
Mm-hmm.
defining like line for me. But then with
Yeah.
an adult, like I like whether you are the male or female that's older or younger, as long as they're an adult, it could be that you're just pursuing this person, and which is what it would look like even with a child, except it's well known that you shouldn't be looking at kids like you wanna like sleep with them.
Yeah.
So that's the difference for me.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the thing then. So it's like, okay, so with children, we've then built a line to say, okay, how do you know if it's a kid? Well, we've built an age to say 16 and younger. So regardless of whatever they say, they're too young for society. So whatever they say doesn't go. If you're older than that and you take advantage, and you have sexual intercourse with someone that's 16 or younger, you have taken advantage and therefore you have raped. Society said, okay, cool. So we know that's where kids are, right? Now, how do you now then say all of a sudden that when you're 17 and up, for example, that you have been coerced into rape?
Yeah, that's a difficult one for me because it's so blurred. Like some people just like being pursued forever, or like pursuing the other person. We call that coercing as well. That's when it gets a bit sticky for me because I'm like, it's just you pursuing someone. Or it could
Hmm.
be coercing, whatever that is with
Yeah.
adults, you know?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. So that's the thing. It's like the fact that we're chilling now when we're talking about this whole coercion thing and we can't even get to an answer. Imagine now again, like you have been someone has said to you that this person coerced me, and therefore because we now are looking after people that got raped, we're trying to make a safe space, and now we're saying that if this person kept on asking you for sex, for instance, then that means that he's coerced you into having it. Then it's like, okay, well, if you're going to define it that broadly, then how about the fact that someone takes you out on a date? He has an end goal. Is that coercing?
Yeah, that's why I'm like with adults it's a bit okay. I must be careful with saying this, but then I don't see how people get coerced as adults because in normal situations, if you do not want somebody to be pursuing you or anything like that, you make it as clear as possible. Like, listen, I'm not like trying to get you to drag this along and wanting to be pursued and you to try harder or whatever. This is what I'm saying. Like, no, and just leave it at that. So normally I would expect that adults would be able to speak like that or be at a position where they can be like that, blunt, this is what this is. That's why then I'm like, I don't know how an adult can be coerced unless they have some sort of a disability where they're adults, but then they have a disability here and there where they can be easily manipulated, whatnot. But in
So even
normal
with
cases,
that,
I'm like, you want to go to that date? Yes, go. You don't, then no.
so even with that, then there has to be set parameters to say what do we then constitute a disability in the terms of a rape. Because if you can be easily manipulated, it's like, so what? You could have done something about it. If you're disabled, maybe if you you have a physical disability. It's like, well, how does that pertain to rape? How does that pertain to someone coercing you? So we have to then have that defined to say, perhaps if you have a mental disability that then perhaps does not, that hinders your thought process making and makes you vulnerable and whatever, then we could, which is also going to be tricky, right? Because then it's like, well, then the other person can say the exact same thing that you think is accused, that you think that they're the victimizer. He can say, well, hey, you know what? Actually, I'm a bit autistic. I can't read social norms and stuff, and I can't pick up body language. So yeah, now what? Now who's the victim and who's the perpetrator?
But
So
then it could go as to like, are you diagnosed or undiagnosed? Does it matter? Does it not? Like all of that.
yeah, so it goes from something that you think is, oh no, well, we're looking after you by trying to make you out to be the victim as you are, to be thinking, then who's actually the victim here? Who's the perpetrator? Because it can be you, it can be him, it can be both of you at the same time. It's like now, like this whole thing of, if she's drunk, then she can't give consent, right? And it's like, it sounds nice. Yeah, okay, well, perhaps. Even if she says no, for example. Even if she says yes, we don't constitute that as consent. Then it's like, well, how are you going to know if she's drunk? What are we going to define drunk as being, right? And perhaps we might be getting pedantic with stuff like that, but we need to, because it's your lives at risk, right? Then it's like, okay, perhaps you can say, let's say that we're going to play it safe that way and say, if she's drunk, she can't have, and she has sex with you, and he has sex with you, then he's violated you, regardless of whether you said yes or no, right? Or went to his place, or went to his place, you went to his place, and then you got drunk, and then he forced himself on you. Then it's like, look, bro, as long as she got drunk, then you screwed, right?
But then, like, how realistic is that? Because people, like, in fact, some people prefer like drug sex. It's like, so if you cannot
Exactly.
give consent with like when you are under the influence, even if you were saying yes, is that not consent? Like, because it's like, I'm like, how, like, there must be a line somewhere where people can be like, okay, this is this and this is not. But then if we want like the law to decide all of that, which it has to get involved to a certain extent, it's like, it doesn't make sense. Like, you're like, okay, a drunk person, can you not take responsibility of anything? Okay.
So this is where I'm trying to get at now, right? This is where I'm trying to get at. So now you have a situation where it's like that, where you say, okay, if you're drunk, then definitely, if the guy even whatever, he doesn't even have to take advantage of any sort of um advancement towards you, is taken advantage and therefore is rape. So therefore he must go. Then it's like, okay, well, there's the guy. He's drunk too.
That's why I'm saying it's very, because two drunk people choosing to have sex, who gave
Who raped
consent?
who?
Yeah, like it's a bit sticky. So then the next day, one of them goes and says, "Actually, you raped me. Like I didn't
And
say yes to
and this is
this."
and this is often the
Yeah.
case because again, like I said, in most of those cases, the woman will be the one to go to jail because I mean not to jail to the police, and the men will go to jail because women are have more likely to lose in a sexual encounter than men, right? So men will generally not report a rape case, and women will. So even in a situation like that, it's almost as if you get there first, you're in luck, and more often than not, the woman goes,
But
right?
then tell me, why is it that guys don't go and report cases like of being raped?
Social stigma is one of them. Another one is because guys don't really know if they're being raped or not,
Hmm.
and it's almost like there's um a need for a guy always to want sex, regardless of what the other person says, because you're there to be you're always the one that's trying to pursue the woman, and you need to kind of do that all the time. So if she had sex with you, you cannot feel as though you can't go and lay a charge against her because you should just be grateful that she had sex with you.
Hmm.
And then there's the added thing of, well, who's gonna listen to you? Because it hardly ever happens the other way around. So just be a man about it. And as a guy,
But
how do
is
you even prove that? How do you even prove that in court?
yeah, it's difficult.
So
Um,
you weigh all those options up, and then you think, yeah, it's not worth it, man. Cool, whatever, right? Then this is what happens now, right? So just because guys don't mention it doesn't mean it doesn't happen, right? Perhaps it's one of the factors that I'm telling you now. It's like, well, whatever, man. Consequences doesn't, we have less to lose and all those things. So fuck it, let's let it go, right? Now then what happens is the other side keeps on trying to push this narrative of, well, they're not saying anything, and they don't get they're never in raping conditions, or nothing ever happens to them whereby they're ever raped, and we will continue to push this narrative of, hey, look, if he touched you and you felt uncomfortable, or you felt like you didn't want it, yeah, that's rape, or that's sexual assault. If he did this and you felt as, I didn't want to say anything because I was scared, that's rape, right? And then what happens is you go and you push that narrative until it gets to the brim, right? Then the other side feels, you know what, man, this is some bullshit, right? How about with everything that you've been saying, we are going to use exactly the same principles and use it on this side, and then we're going to deem that as rape too, right? So for every single time you ask me as a guy, right, to have sex with me, and I say no, and you say, come on, man, coercion.
yeah, the coercion part is the one that I'm still battling myself. So,
Or, or I'm a guy laying next to you. Hey, man, come cuddle. No, I don't want to. Okay, well, I'm just going to snuggle up next to you. Don't touch me. Sexual assault.
Lord, yeah, yeah.
It sounds, yeah, but you see how weird it is when it's the other way around. It's like, it's so like, oh my gosh, like, even if it's touching of genitalia, if it's the one way, it's like, oh, no, 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 you don't ever do that. But if it's a guy against a girl, it's like, you're just supposed to be happy, bro. Like, what's wrong with you?
But is
Do you
that
understand what I'm
pressure
saying?
coming from Adam Majita, or it's coming from everybody to
Well,
just
it could
be
be both.
glad that it's
It could be,
happening?
yeah, it could be both. But regardless of that, that's not even the point, because it's like, the point is, well, look, if you're going to define it this way, then we're going to use those same definitions this way. So
And
this whole
and
safe,
but then something that we don't understand or struggle to understand is that even like especially for guys, because like we were talking about like how do guys get raped? Like how do you, like, as a guy, how possible is that in that you get excited and then you partake in a sexual encounter and then come back and say, I got raped. But then the thing in all of that is that you realize that, like, your body, for instance, is not, or like sexually, it's not created to be like, okay, like it will betray you, like, because if you are touched in a sexual way, like whatever, your body is gonna do like that, it's gonna respond to that, whether you are like saying, oh, I'm in this, or I'm not. So that's the other thing that people don't get. It's like, oh no, you must have wanted it, like whether male or female, like you responded to it, you enjoyed it. Or like even when guys would be like, yeah, at some point you were enjoying this. Or even for males, like you got off at this, like all of that. It's like, of course your body is gonna do like all of that because it was touched in a sexual way. But it doesn't necessarily also mean that that person was consenting. Like even for a guy, we like, oh no, guys never get raped. Like really, like your body's
Yeah.
gonna do what it does, and you can still get raped as a guy as well.
Mm. And this is the thing as well, is that exactly what you're saying is that your same definitions that you think we're trying to save you and make you all, wrapped in cellophane, and you try to make them wishy-washy because now you're the victim. So it's like, yeah, it's cool. It doesn't make sense. It's cool. At a later stage, it's the exact same thing that's going to put you in a predicament. Because now all of a sudden you find that if it's you and your boyfriend, and he says, no, look, I don't want to talk about this, or I'm mad at you, I don't want to do anything. Then you go and you start touching him. Then he's like, sexual assault. And then you're like, oh, what the hell? How is that possible? But then it's like, if it was the other way around, and you were mad at him, and then he starts touching you, it's like, why does it make sense that way? So let's not even put it in a girlfriend boyfriend situation, and put it in the sense of, let's say you're at a club or a party, and you as a guy go touch a guy, right? You go, hey man, you know what, I really like it, and you start rubbing it, touching his arm or whatever the fuck, right? He can't really say that's creepy, right? Because is it not?
But why? But why can't he? Like if you don't want a woman touching you, or you're not feeling that, why can't you just say, hey, no? It's
Yeah, but look,
something.
that's what I'm trying to.
Yeah. Because I think
Yeah,
that's the
so
pressure that you guys put on yourselves. And I'm like, okay, listen, somebody touches you, and in a space where it's like a club, we're all strangers there. You don't know who the heck anybody is. So like if somebody just starts touching, it doesn't matter whether it's a woman or a guy. Like I'm like, hey, don't touch me. Like I don't want you to touch me. Whether you are a bit tipsy or not, like just get off. So why is it so difficult for guys to just say, hey, don't touch me?
yeah, well, like I said, it could be a variety of reasons. It could be, again, the social norms and the social stigmas. It could be the fact that you don't want to be seen as a weakling. And again, it's like, oh well, you're always the one that has to be the aggressor in the relationship. So now, one of the times where you don't actually have to aggress in a relationship, you should actually be grateful for it. So that's that narrative too. So then you feel out as a guy, you know what, first of all, I'm not even going to be taken seriously for this. So I'm just going to say, hey, man, Kandiege, man, leave this whole thing. But I'm not going to take it as far as trying to mess your life up, right? Whereas if you as a guy, and also we have less to lose as men in any kind of sexual encounter, right? Whereas with a female, where they have more to lose, they're going to be more sensitive to it. Now all of a sudden, the same person goes and touches another girl. Oh, man. You'll hear about it all the time. And now it's more sensitized on the one side and it's not on the other side. But it's the same action.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
So what then ends up happening as a result is that everyone's kind of like watching each other. Oh no, well now, if we push this narrative of males are always trouble and every single touch that a male does towards me, I can now say that I've been sexually assaulted, then men are going to say, okay, cool. Well, it'll be your turn. When you touch me, I'll say exactly the same thing. And then what? And then people are going to say, well, no, I don't want to touch guys because, oh, now they've changed. And girls are going to say, oh, I'm not going to touch girls because now they've changed. And this whole thing of, okay, well, what's consent now? Oh, well, you guys define consent. And they say, well, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So they're going to say, well, you guys define consent on the one side, and we're just following the way that you define consent. So we're doing exactly what you want to do. But at the end of the day, what happens is both species kind of look at each other and they say, nah, not trying to. And you're already seeing this in society. You see that a lot of females are scared to ever try to go past a certain barrier with males. I mean, a lot of males are scared to go past a certain barrier with females in the general population, right? And in the workplace, it's the opposite. Well, it's not the opposite. It's the same actually, where males are still like, nope, we're not going to do this because any kind of sexual assault at any time is banned. Like, I'm not even supposed to say anything inappropriate to you.
Yeah, yes, you should.
See? Even the way that you dress, I'm not even supposed to say, oh, you look nice, because why are you looking there?
In a work environment.
Yeah, but even in a social environment. In a social environment, it's like, okay, it's a bit inappropriate, and you have nothing to lose, but just don't touch me. But I want you to touch me, just in case that, I really like it. But if I don't like it, then I can go to the cops and say you sexually assaulted me.
That's crazy, though. But because I don't think there's anything wrong with compliments. Like, there's a difference. There's like compliments and there's like, you fucking sick. So compliments are nice, and like, I don't see anything wrong with that, even coming from a stranger. But when they sexualizing you to a point where they're just nasty, you're just like, no, man, like, who's your mom even? Why are you speaking to anybody like this, But if it's like just a nice compliment, whatever, and then you move on with life, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, so I think I can agree with you with that. So it's almost like we've got the extreme on one side. We've got the extreme on the other side of, okay, I can say, hey, how are you doing? It's like, oh, that's innocent. And then the other side, I can say, oh my God, I really would like for you to do something to me. And it's like, oh, that's terrible, right? And now it's like, where is the line here? What if I said to you, I like your stockings? It's like, perhaps it depends who I say that to, right?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, you got really nice legs. It's like, depends who you say that to. So then you have a situation where if you're in a work environment, men have a lot to lose there, work-wise, but not obviously sexually. Then they say, nope, want none of this. Even if you're in a room with me, I'm going to open the door. Or even if you're in a room with me, there has to be someone else there.
Yeah, right? Just cover yourself.
Basically, then in that situation, you're always basically in like a health environment where you're speaking to a doctor type of thing. It's like, it's always got to have to always be one person and a one-on-one situation. But even then, it's like, how do you know that it won't even get to that part where even if you're a male physician, you won't have to be required to be with someone else if it's a female patient?
Yeah, it gets more interesting.
So it's like we've defined the extremes, but now it's like, here, what do we do now with these ones here? Because it depends on, it could happen 2 days later. I could say to you, hey, look, I really like the way that dress sits on you. Then you say, oh, no, that was nice. And then you walk out and then you go about your day. 2 days later, you chill with your colleague and you say, oh, man, he gave me such a nice compliment. Oh, what did he say? Oh, he said, that you like the way this dress sits on you, or your dress sits on you. Then she says, oh my gosh, like he's probably looking at you sexualized. Then you start to think about it. Then you can say, perhaps it did. Boom, straight to HR.
Yeah, shame. It sucks for guys that way, but also it depends on the, like, I think some women can be matured about things, even if like somebody else tries and gets you thinking otherwise in that situation. Like, no man, it was just that. It was the fact that they like the dress on me and that's that. Like, you move on. But if you're gonna be easily influenced like that based on like just a random comment, like I'm like, you should also get yourself looked at. Like you don't just waver all over like by people's opinion like that. So like
So,
maturity of a person
but
gets in there as well.
but
Not
this is
just be
the
like,
this is the
oh,
this is
actually
the
now I'm
issue
gonna
though.
go back there.
But this is the issue though, is that then if the workplace can't get those definitions right, then in every case is dependent on the receiver. That, oh,
Mm,
okay, well, you know what? Um, he said that I had a nice dress, and one person might say, well, no, that's inappropriate. The other person might say, oh no, that is appropriate. But then the job says, well, you're gonna just have to trust her on it, and then gone are you.
mm,
Which, when one thing that we try to solve something like that is if everyone wears a uniform and everyone looks the same, then you don't have situations like that, or they're less likely to.
but then even with uniform, like based on different genders, like you wear like a skirt, even though it's a uniform, it still looks a certain way on you, and certain people may like that and whatnot. So are you not supposed to compliment a person ever now, or what?
Exactly. What about lipstick, makeup?
What's wrong with it?
No, I'm
They
just saying
what?
it's part of what you wear. So it's like, again, guys don't wear it. You wear females generally wear it. Then it's to
Yeah.
enhance the way that you look. Then it's like, should that be allowed or not? And that's another debate because it's like, well, the whole point of you going to work at times and dressing up is to look nice. So then when someone compliments you on that, it's like, well, it's work. But now you have this whole, oh well, it's in the middle. You're gonna lose your job for it. Then all of a sudden,
Mm.
everything now matters. How you say it, how you don't say it. Then it goes to stuff like what I'm saying now. It's like you don't even want to be in the same room with a different gender because anything can
Mm.
happen.
Yeah, this is true. Okay.
Yeah.
Just to
So
warn
yeah,
you,
man.
just to warn you though, my battery's on 5%.
Okay. Yeah. No, actually. All right. Nah, it's cool. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks
so
for talking
just
with
so
me.
you know, like, yeah,
It's fine. I was gonna end it anyway.
okay.
All right.
Alrighty,
Cheers, bro.
good chat.